You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii. Please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Today's guest is Bill Richardson, founding member of HiBeam. So, Bill, could you share with us your feelings on community service and your career? How does it intertwine?
Well, I come from a very long line of politicians and very community active people, and I've always felt it a duty that I would try and return as much as I could to my community. I did spend the 7 years of my education and about 7 years away working in a corporate world with Wang Laboratories, but I've always wanted to come back to Hawaii. I wanted to raise my kids here. I thought it was a great experience for myself, and I wanted to do something that could help my community. So I wanted to, don't get me wrong, I'm not purely altruistic. I wanted to get rich and help my community at the same time.
What's your feeling on businesses combining their community service together?
I think that's very important. I think that honor is a very big part of great entrepreneurship, and people recognize that in others. And I've tried to live my life so that, I'm giving both to the community and to the companies that I'm with my best effort.
So where does the Entrepreneurs Foundation of Hawaii come into all this? How does that work? What are they doing?
Well, when John Dean came to me with the idea, it was a very compelling idea. It was modeled after the Silicon Valley Entrepreneurs Foundation, and we've had great success with it. The premise is that many of the large Hawaiian companies were being bought by international or national conglomerates, and when that happens, the sort of the giving base of those local Hawaii corporations tends to be diluted, and they tend to lose focus on local charitable giving. And we saw that as Bank of Hawaii and, First Hawaiian Bank and others of the Big Five were being purchased out external to the state, that there was a gap being created of community giving. So the goal of the Entrepreneurs Foundation is to sort of get the next wave of large corporations that will be in Hawaii to start building a mechanism for giving, so both for their employees and for the company management, that we would try and help each of these companies by, first of all, taking a small portion of their equity when they're first getting started. And then once they do gain liquidity in the situation of Hoku Scientific, a public offering, we were able to exchange that equity for significant funds, which were half returned to the company to start their own 501c3 giving entity, and also to help the Entrepreneurs Foundation to expand its efforts to help the companies that are in our portfolio to do sort of employee-based giving or charitable efforts in, the food drive or anything that those companies would like to do.
What does that mean, employee-based giving, though? So it would be matching funds for employees wanting to do charitable giving or to support them in organizations? What does it do?
Well, we're not trying to dictate how a company's employees use their monies in a charitable basis, but what we wanted to do was to provide as many opportunities as we could for those companies, because when you're in an entrepreneurial company, it's very easy to get caught up in what you're doing and to overwork, and most of the people there are type A, and they don't have an opportunity to sit back and think about their community. So if you provide them opportunities to get involved with community efforts, it starts a culture of giving, and when those companies become large, the company will have that culture in place and will then start supporting our community as they go forward and grow.
And how are you able to manage your time? Because you're very busy with your career as a venture capitalist, and then you're still giving back to the community with the Entrepreneurs Foundation. How do you balance that?
Well, I'm very careful on the types of charities I've done, because I had some health issues. My first charitable organization that I got involved with was the National Kidney Foundation. And then I sat with Hospice Hawaii, also did some work with the UH Foundation, and I'm currently working on the EF Hawaii, and that's in addition to the HiBeam effort.
So can you share with us maybe your personal story of why the Kidney Foundation is important to you?
Sure. I'll give you two examples. When my mother was ill in the mid-'70s, Hospice Hawaii was a great organization for her. And so I felt that was something that I wanted to be involved with. And then I myself also got kidney disease, and in fact I have a kidney transplant and 2 artificial hips. So I felt that the Kidney Foundation could use my help, and so I spent 6 years with the Kidney Foundation. And I tend to do my charitable efforts in a sequential way. So I started with the Hospice Hawaii, I went to the Kidney Foundation, then I did UH Foundation, then I did HiBeam, and now I'm currently involved with the Entrepreneurs Foundation. But I have to be very careful about my time, and because if I'm going to get involved with an organization, I want to give it my best effort.
So what's the criteria you determined to kind of the method behind that madness? Why'd you determine it in that order?
Fortuitous. I think it was just the right thing came to light when I was ready to move on to a new charity. And I tend to spend 5 to 6 years or so with each of the charities, and then, I'll be looking for my next one, but it's probably another couple of years away.
So when we're doing these types of charitable and community type interaction, I know that there are a lot of benefits that come back that may not necessarily be direct, or just things just start to work better. It's hard to explain if you're not doing it, but have you seen that in your own experiences?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I never go into it thinking that I'll gain connections or I'll gain some benefit for me. It's always that I think it's a great organization and I want to do as much as I can for my community. But as with all efforts like that, lots of it comes back to you. And it's very nice to see that, but that's not the reason why I think anyone does it.
So you'd recommend for people to do it, even if they're super busy?
Absolutely. It keeps you grounded, keeps you balanced. Other than wives, it's the only thing that keeps you on the ground.
Thanks for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host, Evan Leong and Carrie Leong, saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio Hawaii.